So I'm going to do a live demonstration of what I would have done for a specific module. The very first thing that I would do is, of course, I would set up a file for each of my modules. This is my PDEs module, which is partial differential equations, and we start off with notes first, live class. As you can see, these are not very comprehensive notes. They look more like just doing examples and just practicing some very basic integrations and just easy stuff because it was the first session for this module and probably was more to do with review. Again, yeah, looking at ordinary differential equations, and here I have a few tasks that I decided to throw into the bottom of my first live lecture. And then you can see I've done PDE tutorial 1. Which was written, okay. Usually I do it I just write it up. But for some reason, for this week, I decided to do it written on a piece of paper. Usually I do it with my stylus on my tablet. But this time I had scanned it in, and Cam Scanner is a really great app for scanning things in because look how clean it looks. Marked, key things highlighted, and so on and so forth. So that's my PDE tutorial 1, which I completed before the lecture, and then I've got PDE's lecture 2. As promised, I do not write my own notes. I just use lecture slides. I download them into my notes app. And from there I add to it. So I'll add a new page and maybe some examples, some derivations that are not actually in the lecture slides. I will add those in that the lecturer is going through in class. Again, so look, holds for y Bessel function. I'm just writing extra notes that the lecturer is saying, but actually is not on the slides already. And again, some more examples. Attempt substitutions myself. Sometimes I'd write little notes so that when I go back to review what I did in class that day, I have a few little exercises just to test myself and see what I mean. I also did a really helpful thing where if I didn't understand something, I would go to ChatGPT and ask it to explain. And the explanations, obviously I would forget those explanations, so I would just bring it in. I'd just take a screenshot and throw them into here, as you can see. So this is the just screenshots of, as you can see, step 1, step 2, and so on and so forth. Just it helps for my own understanding. Same thing, so I've got tutorial 2, and then there was always extra practice that my lecturer would give. I used to have something called week workings. As I said, I was not fussed about writing the notes down because I already had everything that I needed, but I would always race the lecturer to get the examples done, and that's what these workings are. They're just following along the examples in the lecture. So if you have, for example, week 8 workings, I've got methods now. So employing the separation of variables method, assuming the solution is that, and then I've got 1A, 1B, 1C, and the different steps that you have to do, which tells me exactly how to solve that problem. This is during the weeks leading up to the exam, so the teaching weeks. And this was my lecturer's actual written notes, which was super helpful. I had a print out of these. So this is just the full notes that are written out, and he's done pretty much everything that we need to know. Week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. Which is why I didn't feel really the need to write everything out. So it was this alongside the lecture slides, and I used both of them in tandem to create my Anki flashcards and to, of course, inform my understanding of the topic. I want to show you my tutorial, the questions written here, and as you can see, I have ticked the ones that were fine, and then the starred questions are the ones that I need to go back to, and circled questions. Okay, just take the questions. That one was difficult. So this one here was difficult. This one here is difficult. This one here is difficult. I'd sometimes write little notes, like very, very stuck. And then when I came back to it afterwards, I'd often find that it was very straightforward. Then I just take a screenshot of the question and then do my working underneath. It's just a very long derivations and things. And so I'd color code them, which is a really helpful trick if things are going to get long and confusing very easily. I'm going to close that door because that dog barking is really getting on my nerves. So more derivations, more long, lots of long things. This was my favourite module though, so again, writing myself notes. When I substitute things, they are not adding up, question mark, and then I'd ask my lecturer, what happened here and how do we deal with this? Okay, so I did that for tutorial 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and every single week all the way up until the end. You can see some of them I have no notes just because I was uploading them straight into Anki instead of annotating them in my tablet because I didn't think I needed to do that. I also had a printout version of these notes, so I was annotating sometimes in class on my printouts instead of doing it on my tablet just because I like paper and pen. So if anybody else is old-fashioned like that, that's also completely fine as well. But the tablet's helpful because it has everything all in one place. In phase 2, you have to start exam practice early, so you're doing 1 exam question a week for your module. But because my tutorials were essentially my exam practice, I didn't need to do a separate version of this. I just kind of stuck to doing my tutorials, doing them again, doing my extra practice questions, and that was it for phase 2. But obviously each module is different. For example, so this is my uni deck, and this is PDs. If I just click study now, obviously it's not correctly synced because I haven't looked at this in ages and I haven't been reviewing it. But if we click study now, we can see I'm being asked a question. How can Bessel functions be used to solve partial differential equations? I'll give it a go, I'll think about it, and then I will check my answer. And as you can see, it's just a screenshot from my lecture slides. I'm very lazy with my Anki flashcards. It's just a screenshot from my lecture slides. And then I'll decide, is it very hard, medium hard, good or easy, and it will just tell you, okay, less than a minute, less than 10 minutes, review in a day, and review in 4 days. Okay, let's just say it's good. Then I move on to the next one. How can they be used to solve other differential equations? And then again, same lecture slides, I'll say it's good. What is Bessel's equation? What is the J1 solution? The second solution when v equals a half. I can't remember what any of this means now because it's been too long. But sometimes I'll put a couple of slides in as well. And then just read through it, make sure I memorize it. And when I'm doing it, when I was answering these questions during my actual Anki review, I would get a piece of paper and I would write everything down. So I wouldn't just sit there and just say the information. I would write down the key bits of information I can remember because it's of course very numerically specific, content heavy. So I would make sure I'd write it down and compare my answer and see that I've done a good job. And then if you take, for example, let's say Uni 1, Semester 2, this was a probability distributions module. And I would just have taken a screenshot from my lecture notes and popped it in here. Different colours are also very nice because they tune your brain into different things. And of course you can actually type things up. Here I've done some math symbols using LaTeX script, LaTeX typing, not sure what it's called, but you can use LaTeX to type up symbols in Anki. So this is the Anki workflow. I would use this every single day leading up to the exam, starting a month before the exam. Or if not a month, then 3 weeks before the exam. Now back to redoing tutorials. So this is the next phase where we are practicing for exams. So for example, I will pick tutorial 4. And I have got, initially when I went around doing it, I had a green tick, green tick, green tick, green tick. So all of them are very straightforward apparently for this one. That's not a really example. But either way, I would go back and do, because PD didn't have many questions, I would just do all of the questions again. But for example, this one's a better one to show you because I was struggling a lot with this one. So if there's a lot of questions and you don't really know where to start by redoing all the ones that you were stuck with. So here is a prime example of what I'm pretty sure I did begin with this as well. This question here, question 6, I could do part 1 and part 2 fine, but part 3, 4 and 5 I was pretty stuck on. So I was trying to do that by myself. And also these tutorial problems were a lot harder than the actual exam questions. So be wary of that as well. If you can do the tutorial problems, then the exam will be a breeze. But if your tutorial problems are easier than the exam problems, then you need to practice those more. Okay, so I would start off with these, just because that's a natural starting point, if that's where I was very stuck. And now it's exam season and I've got to check that I actually do understand it now, having studied and really consolidated that concept for a few weeks now. Upon completion, and I would always redo the tutorial by hand on paper, so not on my tablet because I'm leading up to exams, so exams are written exams, my exams are written exams, and so I would do these using pen and paper, just the old-fashioned way, because who doesn't love pen and paper? And then I would put it all together, mark it, again circle the stuff that I was still getting wrong, and then update my cheat sheet for it. Here are some examples of my cheat sheets. I unfortunately misplaced my PD's cheat sheet, so I can't find that. But as you can see, they all follow the same kind of format. So this is my econ from a few years ago. So I fold them in half like this, and then I would write information on the side with a title or a subheading, and the same here. Okay, now we've got mock paper 3, which was a fake mock that I used ChatGPT to create. Okay, I have some notes. Again, I'm not doing everything super specifically and thoroughly. In the tutorials I am, yes, but annotating notes and doing mock papers,